Wack 100, the respected and feared manager in the hip-hop industry, strolled through LAX, his mind focused on the day's agenda. He was not just a music executive, he was a man with a history, a past member of the Bloods gang who had turned his life around to make a significant mark in the music world. He had managed artists like The Game and had connections that ran deep in the industry. His companion, BigU, towered beside him. Eugene BigU Henley, a former gang member turned community activist and music executive, had a reputation that preceded him. He was a man of principles, known for his contributions to the community and his efforts in educating young artists about the importance of ownership. As they moved through security, placing their bags on the conveyor belt, Wack's eyes were sharp, surveying their surroundings. They were not here on gang business. This was about respect, about the industry, and about ensuring that commitments were kept. There it is, flight's landing now. You ready for this? Big U's deep voice broke the silence, drawing Wack's attention to the runway where a jet was just touching down. Wack's expression hardened into a grin. Yeah, I see it. Let's go this way. Come on over here. Wack 100 moved through LAX with the ease of a man who knows his environment. His years on the streets had honed his instincts, always scanning the crowd, ever alert for potential threats or opportunities. Beside him, Big U matched his pace, his towering presence a silent testament to his own formidable past. They were in LA, about to catch a flight to Atlanta, minds occupied with their next big move in the industry. Wack, a seasoned figure in the hip-hop world, knew the importance of staying vigilant, especially in places like airports where the unexpected could always happen. As they approached their gate, Wack's sharp eyes caught a familiar face in the crowd. It was Future Hentrix, the platinum-selling artist, casually making his way through the terminal, unaware of the coincidence that had brought them to the same place. Wack's expression shifted into a knowing grin. Well, look what we got here, he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of authority. Big U glanced over, recognizing Future immediately. Future was linked to Detroit music mogul Trick, a mutual acquaintance who Wack knew had been shortchanged by the artist. It wasn't about the money for Wack, it was about principle and respect. This was an unexpected opportunity to address an unresolved issue. Wack stepped forward, taking the lead as he always did. His approach to life was straightforward, face challenges head on, especially those involving respect and street ethics. Seems like you've got some unfinished business back in Detroit, Wack said to Future, his tone serious yet calm. He wasn't here to start a scene, he was here to send a message. Future, taken aback by the sudden encounter, realized the gravity of the situation. Wack stood there, a representation of the streets and the music industry, a man who demanded respect and honored his word. This was not a planned meeting, but in Wack's world, you dealt with situations as they arose. And here at LAX, fate had presented him with an opportunity to settle an old score, to remind those in the industry that in their world, your word was everything. As Big U stood by, a silent supporter, Wack handled the situation with the assertiveness of a leader, a man who had risen from the streets to the boardrooms, yet never forgot the values that had guided his journey. Wack cracked his knuckles as he and Big U approached Future, who was walking alongside his girlfriend Cece, a beautiful pop singer. Well, look what we got here, Wack announced loudly. Future, come back to pay Trick what's owed. Future's head snapped up, eyes growing wide with surprise and alarm at the sight of the two imposing men. Oh, hell nah, Future yelled. He took off running toward the terminals, leaving Kiara to confused before she instinctively ran after him. You get back here, Future, Wack yelled in the airport as he and Big U sprinted after the panicked star. Future was fast, weaving through startled travelers as he desperately sought an escape route. But Wack and Big U were hot on his heels. Future led them on a chaotic chase through Terminal B, toppling luggage carts and shoving aside pretzel kiosks in his attempt to lose the men. But Wack 100 and Big U were on him. In his panic, Future darted into an unfinished terminal expansion that was still under construction. He realized too late that it was a dead end, nothing but a large empty space and dirt floors. Nowhere to run, no passengers or security to save him. He was cornered. Wack and Big U slowly stalked towards the cowering musician. Future's eyes were filled with terror. Trick wants what's owed, and we ain't leaving without it. Now fork over the cash or—
Wack, it's me, Stunner, talk to me.
A voice suddenly rang out from behind them. Wack instantly recognized the voice of Brian Christopher Williams, better known by his stage names Birdman, Baby, or as Wack called him, Stunner. Stunner was one of the most prominent music industry executives in the country and founder of Cash Money Records. Wack had worked with him many times and held a tremendous amount of respect for him. Wack saw that Future was holding out his cell phone on speaker. Stunner's voice echoed out from it. "Stunner, what the?" Wack responded in confusion.
Wack, my word, thank you. I paid in debt. Let him be. I got business with that man.
Wack hesitated, sizing up the still shaking Future. "You sure, Stunner?" Wack demanded. "This boy left Trick without paying what's due. That don't slide around here."
Wack, your Stunner talking to you. As your brother, even be, you got my word, whatever the debt is, I pay him in the morning.
Replied sincerely. Wack clenched his jaw, considering it. Big U raised his eyebrows at Wack, waiting for his decision, but knowing Wack would honor Stunner's request. "Aight, Stunner," Wack finally conceded. "Your word always been good with me." Future looked ready to collapse in relief. Shara seemed to be quietly weeping, but Wack couldn't be sure. "Stunner, be careful with this boy," Wack yelled into the cell phone, Warren tossing it back to Future. "Thank you, Wack," Stunner said across the speakerphone. Wack eyed Future in disgust. "Nothing personal, but you lucky as hell Stunner reached out and saved you on the dead homies." With that, Wack turned and walked away, Big U following behind. They left Future slightly slumped, trembling against the wall, his lady clutching him tight. As they exited the terminal, Wack just shook his head. Wack casually checked his watch. "We still have some time," Wack said as he and Big U made their way back through the busy corridors of LAX. "Why wouldn't he just pay that man and avoided all this nonsense? See, you can't trust a single one of those fools to be stand-up in this industry, Big U," Wack added, his voice tinged with a mix of disappointment. Big U, a few steps behind, gave a low chuckle, his deep voice echoing slightly in the busy terminal. "Lucky for him, Stunner came through," he replied, adjusting the strap of his bag over his shoulder. "Now let's get back to our gate and jump on this flight," Wack said, quickening his pace slightly. He navigated through the crowd with a practiced ease. As they walked, Wack pulled out his phone, swiftly typing a message. Big U, meanwhile, kept an eye on their airport surroundings. The dynamic between the two was clear. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, respected in both the streets and the boardrooms. As they neared their gate, Wack glanced back at Big U. His face was etched with a mix of respect and camaraderie. "Thanks for having my back," he said, his voice low but filled with genuine gratitude. Big U, his expression unchanging, gave a slight nod, the kind that spoke volumes in the unspoken language of brotherhood. Wack and Big U stood as a formidable duo, united and unyielding. Boarding their flight, it was evident to all these men were ready to face any challenge together. That's it for today's episode of the Hood History Club. If you're into these stories, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned. I'm your host, Mr. President, signing off, reminding you to always listen to the streets because every street has a story. Stay up.